everybody, and welcome. Today joining us is author Janet Bostic Williams, author of the new Elvis book, Operation Gratitude, Killll Colonel Tom Parker. Thank you so much for joining us today, Janet.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invite.
Well, before we get started talking about the book itself, tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write this book.
Well, I've been obviously, like many of us, a lifelong Elvis fan, and I love to write. And so I kind of combined my two. I run a Facebook group on Elvis, and a lot of people would say, with my essays and different things, oh, you should write a book, you should write a book. And I always would say, oh yeah, thank you, I should. And then one day I was contacted by a friend of mine from South Africa, who is a published author and wanted to collaborate on a book together.
Oh,
So this was about a 2 or 3 year project, back and forth. We've never met. It was emails and Zoom calls, and just wanted to make something kind of fun and interesting, and
Well, a lot of people watching this, and you probably as a lifelong Elvis fan, can definitely relate to this, that I think we're all always searching for the next Elvis read. It's like, I'm always reading an Elvis book, I'm always searching for an Elvis book. And this one really appealed to me because it was a little bit different. It's more of Elvis historical fiction.
Almost like a romance novel, sort of, but with Elvis. Elvis is the theme, but he's not really central in it. Following him is central. Places that he was and the places that he performed and things that went on are factual, but the story, of course, is not.
Well, it was really interesting how the whole story is very Elvis adjacent. He's sort of a specter that's kind of looms over the story. So he's almost sort of symbolic in a way.
Right.
Yeah. Was there anything particular outside of course, our passion for Elvis? Is there anything particular that Elvis was symbolizing to you when you wrote the book?
Well, I think it put things more into perspective. In the book, the heroine of the book, the young lady, builds her life around Elvis. And I see so many people online, Facebook and social media that get things out of kilter sometimes. And she learned a lot about herself as she went along the way.
It's less about Elvis and more about Elvis fandom.
Right.
And the experience of fandom in general, and I felt like it was pretty honest in acknowledging that there can be points where fandom can venture into something that can be unhealthy.
Right.
Certainly for the main character, there's a section where she does begin to kind of lose touch with reality a little bit, and probably over-identifies with wanting to rescue Elvis and be a protector. And I think this is something that can echo through the fan community.
Right.
It's not something people really talk about directly either. So I thought a fiction book was an interesting way to explore that.
And also the fact that so many that I've seen, they want to assign blame in so many different places. Elvis is godlike, and everyone else thinks they're the villain. It's the wife, or it's the girlfriend, or it's the manager, or it's the Memphis Mafia. You have to look at the whole picture, because people want to assign blame to everyone but Elvis. That's one thing that I wanted people to see, is that it's not just one person, it's not just one thing, it's not one event, it's the conglomerate of everything.
I think that part of this comes from people feeling very protective of Elvis because he means a lot to them,
Right.
And I think he means so many different things to different people, which is part of what happens in this book with the main character.
Right.
I think we can see very clearly that Elvis really feels a need in her life. And I think that this does kind of ask questions about, when does that become unhealthy? When is that venturing into something?
Right. When is it too much?
Yeah. And, I think for most of us, who are Elvis passionate, you can never have too much Elvis, and you can never get it. Another thing, and this is just kind of a side note, but as a therapist, one thing that I really appreciated about this book is that I feel like there are a lot of kind of therapy speak terms that have come to mean different things in popular language, terms like gaslighting, and in this case, narcissist. I have to remind myself when people are using that word, they're not necessarily talking about the clinical definition. They're talking about a more generalized version.
Right, a broad brush of it.
And one thing I really liked about this book is that I was like, this actually is a clinical narcissist. It's the term being used exactly the way it's supposed to be. What prompted you to bring that aspect of that into the story?
I've known a few people like that. And as a matter of fact, I kind of looked it up and studied narcissism a little bit to develop that character. You know, he wanted to turn things around and make himself the victim, and it was her fault that, you know, whatever issues there were, and she must have misunderstood. And then he backtracks and tries to keep his story straight. Just typical.
And I think having him driven by this kind of resentment toward Elvis was an interesting aspect as well.
And I'm not sure he even realized that at first.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the plot of the book.
Well, it's set in the 70s, and it's a fan fiction book of a girl who is just overwhelmed with Elvis in her life. Everything is Elvis and centers around it. She's got her own issues and problems, and Elvis fulfills a need. She decides, and I think you might have noticed in the book, we have the lyrics to Change of Habit. And she kind of realizes that she's set in her ways and she needs to branch out. And when she does that, she meets this other character, and his story becomes entwined with hers. And they set out to basically save Elvis. He's sick, he's not healthy, he's going to die if they don't save him. And it's up to them to do so. And of course, he's got some underhanded ideas. It's not an altruistic, I'm going to save Elvis. It's more, I'm going to take care of myself this way. They set out to save Elvis and have certain adventures along the way and learn a little bit about themselves. And they've determined that getting rid of the manager is what's going to save Elvis. And he's going to be so grateful because he doesn't see it evidently. So that's the storyline pretty much.
Was any of that inspired by the death threats against Elvis?
It was. I mean, because those are very real. As I said in the book, the events are very real. You know, where he was at that time and that date and, you know, what he was doing. It took quite a bit of research on that end. So, yes, that was definitely part of it.
For people who haven't read the book yet, I think one of the things that's probably going to strike them the most, and I love the cover of the book, by the way.
A little plug here. My daughter did that. She designed it.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
It's great. I think it's perfect. Tell us a little bit about the title. That's probably what's going to strike people the most.
Well, actually, I've had a couple of people that have seen the book and said, oh, gosh, no, the Colonel loved Elvis. Elvis loved the Colonel. He would never want him dead. And they just are turned off. So many people do focus on the Colonel. And Operation Gratitude, you know, that's their plan, is to make Elvis grateful for what they do for him. And of course, getting rid of the Colonel is their subplot. But so many things in the Elvis world are just polarizing. You know, you start talking about the Elvis women, that's very polarizing. It's ridiculously polarizing. Same thing if you talk about the guys around him or his manager. People have such strong opinions about it. And they're not all wrong.
No,
they're not all right either. At the end of the day, you know, Elvis was a grown man who made his own decisions. And certainly he had influences along the way. Some he knew about, some he probably just, you know, tucked inside from just life experiences and so forth. But he wasn't totally blameless either. And that's what I want people to see, is that, you know, he had a fallacy within him, just as we all do. I love Elvis. I mean, you have to realize he's human, you know.
And there's nuance to things. I think sometimes this gets presented in a way where it's very black and white, or there's a clear-cut villain. Depending on who you're talking to, that villain can be somebody different, but it doesn't leave a lot of room for shades of gray.
And I think they realized, you know, in the end that eliminating the Colonel was not going to be the be-all, end-all. I mean, there was a lot more to the story than that. Just as the characters discovered in their own life, there's more to the story than just doing that particular one thing, but out of love and care and admiration for all that went on during those times. I mean, I've had a couple of people that told me that lived back then and said, "Oh, that's how it was." You know, you read the newspapers to see what was going on. You searched the magazines, you know, because we didn't have social media, we didn't have internet, and that's how you kept up with what was going on in the Elvis world.
Those period details were really part of what made the book fun for me, because it was like a time capsule in that sense, where it was evocative of that period and what it was like.
I can remember as a little girl hearing on the radio that Elvis was coming to town, and just the excitement because I heard that on the radio. I mean, I'm thinking, oh, what if I hadn't heard that? You know, there was no way of knowing.
Was any of the book autobiographical for you?
Somewhat. I mean, there's probably a little bit in there. As we grow, we learn about ourselves like the character did. So maybe a little bit.
On that note, tell us a little bit about, you mentioned being a lifelong Elvis fan. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was first aware of Elvis in 1965. My mother and father went out and had my brother take me to the movies, and which he was not thrilled with taking me to the movies. I was, 4 or 5 years old, not very well behaved. So we went to see Girl Happy. And I remember sitting, I remember this specifically, sitting in that theater, and Elvis came on the screen, and I was just mesmerized. I remember walking out of the theater asking my brother, who was that man? And he said, that's Elvis Presley. And I said to myself, and I guess out loud, oh, I like him. And that was it. I mean, that Elvis has had that effect on women, since day one.
Sure.
Whether you're 5 or 45 or 95, But I remember, and my brother was so shocked because I sat there and watched that entire movie. I did not move a muscle. I didn't crawl under the seats or run down the aisle or anything like, little kids do sometimes. And so that's really kind of what started my interest in Elvis as a very little girl.
And tell us a little bit about, did you ever see Elvis perform?
I did. I was fortunate to see him 4 times. I saw him in 1970 at the rodeo, Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, way up in the nosebleed section, way up. But still, I was there. My grandmother took me. And then I saw him again at the rodeo. He was there again in 74. Saw him in 75. I had concert tickets. And in 76, I saw him again. And this time I had front row right next to the stage tickets. And I had tickets to see him in Roanoke on August 26th in Roanoke of 77, which we know didn't happen. And also in 76, in summer of 76, I went to Graceland. I have photos, on the porch. My father took me, he struck up conversation with Uncle Vester. He took us up to the house. All this, I was still in high school, but this was just so exciting. Elvis was not home, but
oh, wow. So you were able to get on the property at that point and get
right. Yeah, we drove from Texas, from Houston, where I live, where I'm from, to Memphis, and so I got to see Graceland and what I could see. But
sure, yeah. Oh, when you had the front row tickets, how close did you get to him?
Within feet.
Wow.
Yeah, it's undescribable. When he walks in, the whole place just goes nuts, and there's such an electricity, and it's I've never experienced anywhere else anything like it. It was almost scary, but not scary like frightening. It was scary like this can't be real, And he was not in 76. He was having some weight issues, some health issues, and it was very obvious. But still, he was there. So,
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. I actually took him a yellow rose. I got his attention. Came over to where I was, got his attention. He took the rose and gave me a scarf. And somebody took my scarf. Somebody took my scarf because I was, young. I was 16 and, very, very shy, and much like the girl in the book, I was very shy. And I remember just standing there, just stunned. But he saw it and went and got another scarf from Charlie and brought it back and put it around my neck. And, bent down, put it around my neck with, a little kiss, like, hey, hang on to this one, honey. And
oh man,
that just right there told you what he was about. So yeah, and I still have my scarf. Yeah.
What an incredible memory and experience. Yeah. Did you actually touch him when he was that close?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was something that I'm so fortunate to have experienced.
Absolutely. What a great experience.
Yeah. And I mean, my thought was he needs to hang on a few more years because, then I'll be old enough to be his girlfriend. So, because I used to think, well, Ginger's just a few years older than I am. If she could be his girlfriend, I could be his girlfriend.
A lot of people were probably doing that calculation.
Yeah.
So you were telling me you just came back from Elvis Week.
I've been several times. I didn't go for many, 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 many years. One reason is I was raising a family. We have an older son. He's a flight attendant, goes all over the place. And then we have triplets. And so after they were grown, I started thinking, well, what do I enjoy doing? What do I want to do? And, I've always enjoyed writing. I got involved in this group where I wrote a lot of essays and so forth, and met a lot of people online, and ended up going to Graceland to meet people that I knew. And that's been the last 7, 8, 9 years, something like that.
How did you enjoy it this year?
It was incredibly hot. Did you go this year?
Yeah, it was very.
It was miserably hot. I have friends that we go and we rent an Airbnb and we do our own thing. My friend Krista, my friend Dave, and I had an Airbnb with a gentleman, I say a gentleman, he's 19 and he's an ETA. This one kid, nice kid, very, very, very talented. He was with us. And then he met up with another kid, Scotland, I think is where he was from. And he was 16. I told my friend Krista, I said, we should be paid for babysitting. We had these two Elvis guys with us the whole time. They were 16 and 19. But the kid, especially, they were so sweet. And the kid from Scotland had never been before. And it was so interesting to see it from his eyes. Everything we would see, he would be like, oh, wow. We went out for breakfast and he ordered a milkshake because he'd never had a milkshake before.
Wow.
We had to explain to him what hash browns were. It was interesting to see. It was kind of fun to watch it through their eyes this year. And these are the kids that are coming up and, gonna keep things going. Yeah.
You hit upon two of my favorite things about Elvis Week. One is meeting the international fans and meeting people all over the world, especially people who are in the US for the first time. And it's always been their dream to go to Memphis and Graceland, or doing their first Elvis Week, just seeing that excitement and I love it. And then the other is seeing the young fans and how excited they are.
They were so thrilled. Everything, we walked up and down Beale Street, and my friend Krista, she said, because the guys, are ETAs and they look like Elvis, as much as they can. And people would stop and want to take a photo. And she said, I feel like I'm like a character attendant for Mickey Mouse. We could pull them along and stop and people would take photos. But these two kids, the guy from Scotland, his name is Evan King. And so talented. He was there with his grandmother. Oh. And I know, it was so sweet. And the other guy is named Sebastian Garland, and he is the Florida Elvis. So talented and have such a love for Elvis. It's really sweet to see, and it's encouraging to see.
Yeah. Well, they're the ones that are going to carry it on.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I'm giving them both a plug, because they were not just talented, but they were just genuinely nice kids, nice guys.
My husband and I always comment on, and I feel like this happens every time I go, where sometimes if you're in primary engagement with the fan community during the year outside of the events is online, that can be very, contentious. And it might almost give you the impression sometimes that, wow, this is a very combative community and there's a lot of tension and negativity. But then when I go to Elvis Week, everybody is so kind and, the love and the warmth and, the community and all of that. And it's always so refreshing because it reminds me that, no, this is the heart of it. This is really what it's all about.
Right. Well, and then we have to remember that too. I mean, that's why we're there. And all these other divisive issues that people become so passionate about take away the focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to remember, and that's one thing, the theme of the book also is the young lady needed to remember what her focus was. What was important, what was superficial. As fans, we have to do that too. I mean, it's fine to have opinions, and we should have strong opinions about certain things, but not to the point where it detracts from why we're there. The opinions are so strong, but they kind of melt away when they're around Memphis.
Yeah. So what is the Facebook group that you run?
Well, I am the co-administrator with Dave Rogers. Our Facebook group is called Elvis, a celebration of the man and his music. And we have about 94,000 members.
Wow.
Probably about 10 that are really active. So. But no, we do have a lot of members, and we are very much a no drama celebrating Elvis group. We don't get into the conspiracy theories. We don't get into the divisiveness. We want to celebrate what is important, to us. And I do a lot of writing for it, a lot of essays and so forth, and stories, family, Mother's Day about Gladys, and I wrote a thing about her, about how hard that had to have been to celebrate the birth of Elvis and mourn the death of Jesse at the same time, So, I mean, just different things, different aspects of life and how it affected Elvis and how it affects all of us.
You were also telling me that you just recently opened an Elvis-themed Airbnb.
I did. Well, yeah, we're ready to open. We have been remodeling since March, so almost 6 months. We started thinking about retirement income, and some passive income we have is our area downstairs, our basement area, and we've remodeled it to include a bathroom, full kitchen, living room with a fireplace, bedroom, and we're close to ski resorts and things like that. And so there are definitely little touches in there. My kids get mad at me because I call it Graceland West. Because we're in Utah, but we're hoping to get a little passive income from that. And there's little bits and pieces of Elvis all around the place. So without coming out and being like a big Elvis room, because I have my own Elvis room. But, yeah, gonna be on Airbnb. So
okay. And where about in Utah is it located?
We are near Salt Lake City. We're probably about 20 minutes from like Park City, the ski resorts, Alta, Deer Valley, things like that. We're actually in Sandy, Utah.
Well, we are planning a road trip in spring of 2026 to drive through Utah, so I will definitely keep that in mind.
Well, definitely. Yeah, I'll give you a good deal.
Thank you so much for joining us. And again, the book is Operation Gratitude, Kill Colonel Tom Parker. Where can people purchase this book from?
You can get it on Amazon. It's not an expensive book. You can get it on Amazon. If you're in Memphis, you can actually purchase it at the Tiger Man Dojo. The spa guy has got several copies there on hand, or you can download it. It's an ebook also. So those are the best places. Contact me personally if you want a signed copy. It's a little more than Amazon, but that's a possibility too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate meeting you and the information that you've shared as well. So
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to end here. Click on one of the videos below for Elvis and more. And we'd love to have you like, share, and subscribe, and maybe even join so we can put some more gas in this thing.